Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and I thought it might be fun to show you how I capture gameplay footage to create gaming videos for my gameplay channel. This is something that I've worked on for a while, and I've got it down to an art in the way that I capture things. And it took me a while to sort of get this right in terms of OBS settings, but also the logic of it. So I thought it might be worth sharing, because trying to capture gameplay footage and then edit it down as something that's useful, interesting, or fun can be quite tricky. So what I want to do is show you my OBS settings, the tweaks that I'd make, what I then do with Davinci Resolve, and the process for it, just to show you a few little things that might be useful, I figure. So hopefully this will be an interesting way of doing it. Now, you can see OBS is open here already, and there are loads of different videos on how to optimize the settings within OBS. So I'm going to go into OBS settings and show you what I've got set up. Obviously, this is going to vary from system to system. I'm only going to be showing you the recording side of things, because I do stream as well. So I stream and record at the same time. I've done a video on this previously. But what I want to talk about is how I use the replay buffer. So basically, every time I open OBS and then I go about doing something, I click on this replay buffer, and then that is set and that is ready to go. So the important point here is basically what I've got is I've got a scene set up, which I call use this for games, bro, just to remind me where to click on. And then I essentially open up the game capture mode, select the game that I want to be capturing. So I've got Battlefield in there as an example of what I had running previously. And then I just play the game. And then I have a shortcut setting set up so I can just press a couple of keys on my keyboard, and that will automatically capture the last few minutes of gameplay. So the reason I do this is I find this is easier for capturing that footage and working out sort of what's going to be interesting. And it makes the process of editing easier, because yes, you could record entire gameplay sessions, but then you've got to go through and try and find the bits that have been fun about it, what's been the most interesting part of it, or what you're going to use for a tips and tricks video, for example. So I have different formats of content. Sometimes I like to do just clips videos. Other times I like to do tips videos and talk about how to do things in games. So there's different logic to it. So what I'll quickly demonstrate is those sorts of things. So I have a replay buffer set up here under hotkeys, which is Control and 0. And that's just because that's in my head, and it was on the keyboard. I was using Control and then 0 on the numpad. Basically just set up. You can use whatever you want, just a combination of keys here to basically save the replay. So when the replay is running, you then just need to press those two buttons, and that'll then capture the last few minutes. And we'll show you in a second what to do with working out how much time you're going to capture. But that'll capture that time period, and it'll save it to the specific place that you want to save it to. This is really useful, because what I do then is I basically go into a game, I'm enjoying it with my mates, something funny happens, or maybe there's a great moment, something hilarious, something awesome, whatever. I just press Control and 0, and then it captures the last few minutes. And then basically I just need to go to the end of the video that I've recorded, drop it into Resolve and find that funny bit and then cut it. And I'll show a bit more on that later on. So in order to do this, obviously we need to set up a few different things. Now, so under the video settings, I've got base canvas set to 2560 by 1440, because that's what I'm running at, 16:9 resolution. That's scaled to the same because that's what I want it to be. I also have FPS set up to 59:94. Audio I'm not going to go into. I'm using the Rodecaster Pro 2. I've done a setup video on this specifically, but obviously that's going to vary depending on what device you're going to be running. And then this is the output. So here is a heavy focus on recording, but I still do stream. As I said, you can see we've got streaming settings here. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I basically got this output mode set to simple. You can use advanced. There are loads of different guides on the best way to do this, but I've set a recording path, and this is actually a dedicated NVMe drive that I use specifically for OBS recordings. So I'll show you that in a minute, but I basically try and select this to set it to the best possible quality, or at least really large quality, so you can see indistinguishable quality, large file size. Recording format is MP4. Now you might want to use MKV if your system is a little bit unstable, but I've not had any problems with that crashing. And then I'm using my graphics cards with the hardware encoder H.264. But most importantly, you'll see I've got enable replay buffer ticked at the bottom, because this is obviously just for recording. So you could do recordings and replays. I find it easiest to do replays when I'm just trying to capture random stuff. If I want to do something specific, I have something in mind, then obviously I'll go into the recording and I just record instead for a tips and tricks video. Now what you can do here is you can set up a replay buffer for a specific amount of time. So you see I've got 500 seconds. Obviously, this is going to vary from person to person on what you're trying to do. Realistically, actually, I could probably just have this set to a minute, like 60 seconds, or maybe a couple of minutes, just 120 seconds. That would obviously keep this file size down, and realistically, funny things have probably happened right at the end of the video anyway. But if you find that you're having a good banter with your friends, you've got some sort of longer clip going on, maybe something funny happens that causes a chain of events, I found it's handy over time just to have that longer maximum replay time. So I've got it set to 500 seconds. I then have a maximum memory megabyte of 7,777. Don't ask me why, but that's just where I've fallen to, and that's sort of the sweet spot of where it's going to be. Now, obviously, these files take up a lot of space, so you could play around with these settings. Obviously, a shorter replay time will mean it's a smaller file. You could also adjust the quality and other things to tweak these to make sure perhaps those files are a bit smaller, because I do find the drive fills up quite quickly, and if it does fill up while you're in the middle of recording, OBS will just stop recording and you might miss some clips. And that's actually happened to me a couple of times in the past where clips have just not recorded because OBS has said, well, you've run out of space, so you can't possibly do any recording right now, which is less than ideal. So that's basically it as it goes in terms of what the files are going to be when they're captured. And this is the drive that it then falls into. I've got a specific folder, and you can see obviously they're named in order. And what happens is essentially they go in the order of when they were captured up to the most recent date. So the last one was captured here, you can see that. And if I go into it, you'll see you just get a standard clip. So this is a clip from Battlefield. I was playing with my friends, and you can see it's quite long. It's actually 8 minutes long here. And that is far too long. Really, I could have shortened it down. But what I found actually over time is sometimes the clips will record and they'll be really short. Other times they'll be really long. So it's like a maximum time frame that it can be. But if it uses more processing power, if the file's larger for some reason, then it could be that the clip's shorter. And what I don't want is to not have enough. So I'd rather have more than not enough. But actually what I was trying to capture was literally like the last 20 seconds of this clip. So somewhere around here, just right at the end. My friend's been downed over here on the right hand side. You can see a couple of people knocking about that have been downed as well. So I'm just going about reviving those. I run over to help my mate who's been downed, give him the shock paddles. They don't quite work. Do it again, and then and again, and then we go over the wall, and there's an enemy there, and I thought it'd be fun to zap them with the shock paddles, and then I see their friend and I zap him as well, and I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't actually end up using that in a video, but I did press Control-0 right then, and I just smashed to record it and capture that moment. Now obviously you can see that I've got 8 minutes of footage that were completely unnecessary for the most part on that, because it was over the top. But what I would do is I'd take multiple clips. So this folder is usually full of clips. Go into there and then I just edit them out. Obviously taking each of these parts in there. So you can see that this clip, for example, is 5 minutes 40 long instead of 8 minutes. So it's actually shorter despite the same settings being applied. But this can be beneficial because there's sometimes where it's just like, I really wanted that whole clip. So it's pretty funny. So here we're at the top of a waterfall, and we're basically just messing about out there, and then I realized it might be fun to jump off, so just jumped off into the water, and my friend was saying, well, we wasn't sure whether it was safe to do, and I said, no, it's fine, and he came down as well, and I thought it was quite amusing. To go in sort of a line of other clips, it could be quite entertaining. Now, in terms of editing these, it's pretty straightforward. I have a Resolve template set up specifically for editing various things, so what we do is we just go in most straightforward way. Obviously the editing process is going to vary from person to person, but I just want to show you quickly how I do it, and this is going to be really quick. So basically just drop it into the timeline, find that bit that I already had in here earlier, basically scrub through and find the bit where I'm about to jump off, make a cut, delete the initial bit, and then I have this clip, and now it's 15 seconds long. And then you just keep doing that, find the next funny one. If you're just trying to create gameplay clips, obviously we're just going through. Actually, that's another version. Sometimes I have multiple clips from the same section where multiple funny things happened at once. And so here's another clip where we're taking on this guy with a boat motor. So this is from Sons of the Forest, in case you're curious. So basically, same sort of logic. This is the very end of that clip where I shot at him and then his boat motor exploded, which is quite entertaining. And that's now 2 clips that were several minutes, but now are just a matter of seconds, so it's actually 40 seconds long. Now, I also have a project set up specifically for shorts, so you can see this one here called Shorts. I've done a video separately on how to edit shorts. I'm just going to quickly show you that as well. So you can take the same clip, so this clip, for example, you can drop that into here. And now this is obviously a 1440p clip, which now is in a short. So this is for YouTube Shorts, obviously works on TikTok and Instagram Reels and whatever else as well. But essentially at the moment it's squashed down with black bars at the top and bottom. Not ideal. So what we want to do is we go into the video section up here. We click on retime and scaling, we go scale and go fill. Now the very center of the screen is the highlight of what it's going to be. And this is basically in that format, perfect for there. So I find roughly the same place of where things happen, make a cut and shove it back to the beginning. Now, YouTube Shorts have to be 60 seconds or less. And actually I've found if you get one that's about 15 to 20 seconds long, that's ideal. Also, you also want to keep, as a quick tip for shorts, my experience with shorts are you want to keep whatever's the most engaging bit right at the beginning. So if you've got someone that's immediately talking in a really nice voice or something really interesting that's happening almost immediately, for example, this massive guy with a huge head and he's attacking my friend, then you've got something that keeps people watching immediately because it hooks their interest. It's the same with any YouTube video, but it seems to be really important with shorts. You've got to keep people hooked in immediately, grab their attention, and then go in. And once you've finished that, you can then render it out. Now I have the settings set up specifically for shorts here. So just a quick look at this, and we'll go back to the edit. Obviously, you've seen that I've done the fill scaling on here, but you also want to make some other changes into the project settings. So for project settings, usually, obviously, if you're doing 1080p, it'd be 1920 by 1080. Here it's 1080 by 1920. So we set that for the processing 1080 by 1920. So we're just flipping the resolution around. So it will be in that portrait format instead of the landscape setup. And then you go into the deliver tab. And then again, you want to select the resolution. So we've got a custom export resolution. And then you can see we can then set custom in here. And we'll do it as 1080 by 1920 using vertical resolution and then the same frame rate. So what we've done was essentially we've just chopped off the sides of the main video and forced it into a vertical format. And if you need to, you can obviously go through and you can transform, you can add keyframes. For example, we could cut out things and make it look a bit more intense by just zooming it in a bit, or you can reposition things. So you have plenty of options to do that, and then you can just render both of those. So then I've got a clip that's rendered with this funny moment happen, and it's 28 seconds long. It might be a bit too long, but basically just add to the render queue and render, and those shorts will render really quickly, and then create your gameplay videos. So that is how I create my gameplay videos. Hopefully an interesting insight into it. Thanks for watching. You've made it right to the end of the video, you brilliant legend you. If you've enjoyed it, click that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and drop me a comment down below if you've got any questions. If you really enjoyed it, consider joining the channel and see the benefits of doing so. Check out these other videos, you might well find them interesting or useful, and most importantly, have a great life.